Back to our breaking news this evening. That major escalation in Trump's takeover of the nation's capital. National Guard troops seen carrying weapons in downtown Washington, D.C. tonight. That development comes just as more signs begin to emerge that the Trump administration is getting ready to deploy the military to one of the cities that many on the right love to hate, Chicago. The Washington Post reporting, quote, the planning, which has not previously been disclosed, involves several options, including mobilizing at least a few thousand members of the National Guard as soon as September. Trump seems to think this kind of show of force keeps city safe. But what we often see tells a different story, like when we saw ICE agents working alongside National Guard troops and federal agents, like the scene we're about to show you from last week, where ICE violently arrests a 36-year-old near the National Mall. Watch. Joining us now, former New York Congressman Max Rose and Natasha Alford, Senior Vice President at the GRIO. I mean, Max, what do you make of that scene? That's really disturbing.
The immediate scene is obviously incredibly disturbing. What I also found disturbing, though, was the image of the National Guard service members right behind. Yeah. And, we are just one small step, one instance away from seeing activated men and women in uniform. Soldiers, I've put on that uniform. I've been in the National Guard, taking part in an arrest just like that. And that, to me, is what's so alarming here, because that is not what the armed forces is designed to do. It's not what it's meant to do. They're capable of doing it. We have the most capable military in the history of the world. No one's arguing that they're capable or not, but it's not what they're supposed to do, and it doesn't make us safer. And it's just an affront to everything, all of our values that we hold dear.
Natasha, I want you to take a listen to how Trump has explained his reason for potentially sending the military into Chicago. Listen to this.
The people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one, but they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. And so I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York.
Natasha, and the reporting that you and your teams at the GRIO have done, is that true? Are there African-American people wearing red hats in Chicago and African-American ladies begging President Trump to send the military there?
I mean, the suggestion is insulting, right? If Donald Trump actually cared about black families and black women in particular, he would not have cut $158 million in gun violence prevention programs that go to majority black cities. And then specifically, the attacks on DEI have actually put black women out of work, right? The attacks on federal workers have put black women out of work. This erasure of black history has been an entire affront to the black community. So all of it is insulting. The premise is really about expanding executive power, that we know. I was a middle school teacher in Washington, D.C., and I've seen children come in affected by crime and gun violence. If you've ever held, a 12 or 13-year-old who's crying because they lost somebody that they love, they're not asking for an armed federal officer to patrol their neighborhoods. What we all would ask for is investment in the community. We know it's the summer jobs, the violence interruption that makes a difference. And that's why Baltimore is experiencing success. That's why Chicago has seen success. And I think it's actually the success of these black leaders that bothers Trump. I feel like he's almost resenting that success, and he's looking to exert his power over them and to remind them that no matter what you do on the ground, I'm the one that's in charge.
Congressman, where do you see this ending? I mean, you talked about a very kind of troubling image that I think most Americans would agree with. If you see the National Guard arresting American citizens on the streets, or even arresting people just on the streets and policing our cities. But if you hear the president, to Antonia's point, he wants to go to Chicago, and there's been talk about what he might do here in New York, or if he wants to do it in Baltimore. He did it in LA, he's doing it in DC. The idea of these slow attempts to take over this American cities with the presence of American troops, I mean, where does that end?
Well, just a few points here. One is the Army is not just the unlimited easy button. There's 18 divisions in the active duty Army and the National Guard, and they have global commitments in the Middle East, in East Asia, that are ongoing today. So one place in which this ends is that our resources just get stretched to the point that we have to start making very, very hard choices as a nation because of the position that this president is putting us in. That's actually the best possible situation that we could end up in when you compare it to the possibility of a member of the armed forces ending up in a violent situation with someone who, an American citizen. Right? I mean, this has happened before in this country. Think about Kent State, for instance, and that incited protests and violence in our streets across the nation. That's what the potential that there is here. And this is why presidents don't normally do things like this, because just look at the risk reward here. These National Guard soldiers, I promise you, are being instructed to walk around in the streets in a purely symbolic manner. That's all that's happening here.
Right.
But do you think they feel proud waking up in the morning and going to do that at their nation's capital?
Yeah, I think that every single person who puts on the uniform each and every day has the right to be proud. And that is mission agnostic. But let's not forget here that they have not sworn an oath to this president. They have sworn an oath to a set of ideals, to the Constitution. I've sworn that oath multiple times in my life, so that I hope each of them are remembering each and every day that not only do they have the option to disobey unlawful orders, that is their obligation. And I do believe in each and every person that's in uniform that they'll follow through on that. The danger, though, is that if they find themselves in a situation that is actually tenuous, they can find themselves in a potentially violent situation. It doesn't matter in the end. What matters is that we could potentially see these men and women who are armed forces in the U.S. military uniform who could engage in violence on our streets that could catalyze division across our nation. We've seen that before, and that does no one any good.
And there's incredible hypocrisy in sending troops from certain states where the crime actually matches the levels of D.C. or Baltimore or Chicago, right? So why is it that you're only sending troops into these blue cities and blue states when you have red states that also have crime?
Or higher murder rates.
Or higher murder rates.
Yeah, exactly. Like I saw with the Mississippi National Guard being deployed in Jackson, Mississippi, has a very high crime rate. And you don't see Trump trying to improve the water situation in Jackson, Mississippi and get clean water. Instead, National Guard troops are being sent
Deployed to DC.
across the country.
We know that this is political. Kamala Harris, when she warned about this, was, dismissed as overreacting. And she pointed out the fact that Trump talks about the enemy from within. So this is it's a slow changing of norms. And some people would say it's happening really fast, but it's being rolled out little by little. And very soon, the alarm that's in both of our voices is something that everybody will feel.
To your point, I remember when Kamala Harris said Trump would send the army after you. The Hill said that this was a lie, that she was spreading lies that the president, back then the candidate, was going to deploy the army after American citizens. And here we are, American troops are patrolling American cities. So
She was right.
A very troubling trend.